Medicine is science. Diagnosis is science, but the art of healing is more than just giving medications, because we're not giving medications to machines, we're giving medications to humans. We're treating people, and people bring with them all of their baggage. Addressing those spiritual needs can sometimes make a very big difference in how long people stay in hospital and what their experience is while they're here.
Often our spiritual care providers are in our environment to care for our patients. But in many ways, and that's true, and they do a great job of that, and that's easy to almost understand, but they actually, by having them on the ward, it decreases the stress level. They almost treat the ward, and they help the providers in those difficult moments.
And so I think the fact that we can attend broadly to those needs, in fact, help in the business of healthcare. It helps get people recovered well. It helps get them discharged. It helps keep them recovered.
What I see from the patient's perspective is that spirituality is a huge issue for them, perhaps more so than our healthcare providers. And what happens is they're beginning to ask questions about why they're here, what their life means, what a cancer diagnosis means to them in that whirlwind time after a diagnosis, and spirituality is a huge issue for them.
For me, spiritual care is not just religion, and people link spiritual care with chaplaincy, but it's body, mind, spirit. It's the link between celebrating successes when patients do well and supporting families when things don't go so well.
Because I come from a religious background as well, so I have to learn to differentiate between religion and spirituality, and that really is a learning curve, I think, for each of us as practitioners, and I really rely on the support that the spiritual care providers give me as I begin to delve, in a research sense, into those issues.
I can't tell you how thankful I am that it's changing.
That it's changing from?
That spiritual care is more than calling somebody so they can call in the priest for last rites, where there was a focus around death, where there was a focus around making sure that people are prepared to die, and it's not that anymore.
I think one of the big things we've seen is a huge change in the culture of our patient populations. So there is a huge mix nowadays in terms of Muslim, Jewish, all kinds of different people coming into our mix. And the lovely thing that we find so beneficial is that spirituality comes from everyone, and everyone has it. And the group in the spiritual care group can come to a patient, and it doesn't seem to matter. They've been able to normalize it, that it doesn't seem to matter what religion or what ethnic background you're coming to, they're able to provide support.
When I speak to a patient and they raise issues around spirituality and their struggle during this very difficult time, it's very reassuring for me to know that there's a member on my team that I can refer the patient to who will go and speak to them, explore their beliefs around spirituality, offer comfort and care. That's a unique role among the interdisciplinary team, so I value it tremendously.
It's about your humanity, it's about your compassion, it's global, and it would relate to any person on this planet. It wouldn't be, and it would be appropriate for anyone in any religion, because it's just about kindness, compassion, what it's like to share our humanity with one another.
Understanding what our values are, our purpose, understanding why we're all there and the meaning of it is very powerful in providing the best possible care.
What's happening is we're very good in healthcare on the physical side of things and dealing with that domain, but the patients come in with a variety of questions that are spiritually based. How do I cope with my illness? What change does it make to the meaning in my life? What impact does it have on relationships? How do I maintain hope in the face of a cancer diagnosis? Those are incredibly important questions.
We have a lot of people with life-threatening illness, and a lot of them are palliative, and so there's a lot of issues around death and dying and wishes that haven't been fulfilled, things that haven't been done yet, spiritual crises, grief, anticipatory grief, bereavement, all of these things, and we find that somebody who is attuned to these things, who specializes in dealing with these issues, is very helpful to have on the team.
So they work as part of our interprofessional team, and that includes the physicians, the nurses, all of allied health in terms of respiratory therapists, in terms of social work. So it's support to that team and also support to the patients and the families.
We do think of spiritual care as part of the team when we talk about the team. So it's inclusiveness and difficult conversations with families. It's being present in rounds. We've actually invited spiritual care to come in to kind of see what happens in the medical world, to come into the operating room, to come into procedures, just to be aware of what's going on.
Because I'm a social worker and I take a holistic approach to my assessment, I'm attuned to spiritual issues being raised when I'm speaking to my patients. So for me to know that there's a team member that I can refer to, the spiritual care provider, is very helpful.
I'd also make a case around the support that spiritual care provides to the staff. So if you've got a resilient staff that have a strong morale, they're going to do the work better and provide better patient-centered care.
I find the spiritual care provider not only is helping the patient and family, but is also asking the team member, how are you doing with this? And I think as team members, we should always be remembering to do that for each other. But I think it's the spiritual care provider who doesn't ever forget.
I've been around when we were chaplaincy, when we were religious care, and I've seen the transition into spiritual care. The difference now is that when we say to patients and their families, someone from spiritual care will come and speak to you, they're part of the team, patients and families are a little bit more receptive to that than they were to chaplaincy, because that was about religion. A lot of people saw that, that's what they heard. If they were not religious, they would say no. Now people are much more receptive to having spiritual care.